Yeah, not exactly a great morning here. And it was much less of a great morning after ran across some things on Ski Masks and Andy's live stream. Let's talk about it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write for Pathos for over 10 years. I wrote about evangelicalism. I wrote about quiverful, non-denominational churches. That was the big thing. That was my big subject. These are just my opinions. Don't bully anybody, not any of them that I'm going to be talking about today. And this is probably going to be a real quick one. So if I start buffering, let me know and I will go ahead and do what else I have to do. I'm hoping that I get out to do some sea bean hunting like I did the other day. Too. Hey, Cheryl. I'm going to be talking about some of the ways that people are talking about Michelle. I know, Cheryl, you're interested in Michelle. Hey, Shelley. This morning, I do like I do every morning when I'm looking at what was said, where, and all that other nonsense. And I looked at I See What You Can't because I look at her every morning too. She's one of my favorites. Why? Because I've been following the whole been following the whole MGL Michelle saga, as we all have. Toes, and her problems. Part of me is horrified by Michelle. The other part of me is worried. So there's that going on with me and Michelle. Instead of me and Mrs. Jones, it's me and Michelle, the girl that I'm watching in horror. So we've all seen it. We've all seen SkiMaskAndy and his pals go after Michelle, and that's okay. Sometimes I feel like SkiMaskAndy needs to charge Michelle and or various other people's insurance companies for being a therapist, because sometimes he does that, which really confuses me when he turns around. He's extremely petty afterwards. So last night, apparently, the whole Michelle world, he had a panel where everybody was talking trash about Michelle. And I understand the tendency to that. God knows I've come on here and said a pile of bad things about you know who. Hey, Rena. So last night, he had this pile of people on, and he had a lady who was pretending to be black. His name was, she was calling herself LaQuisha, I think it was. And her, quote, husband, Millie Lynn. Yeah, Millie Lynn, I am too. I'm very disgusted. Now, see, I won't watch whole ski mask podcasts when I'm sewing. That's about it. But if he's doing a 5 or 3 hour live stream, I'm not listening to that. I don't have time for that. But last night, when I saw this quote, LaQuisha, or whoever it is like, are we really going back there to mock African Americans that way? Is just really super disgusting. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a ski mask or, I mean, if the Aaron was doing this, or Steve, I would call them out. And I am actually friendly with Aaron and Steve. Ski mask, not so much. I'm just on the peripheral, occasionally catching a few minutes of his live streams, but let's not do that. Now we're in 2023, where we should not ever be making fun of anybody because of their race. The fact that they're doing that is just making me this morning. Wait, did you see the live he did where he says he hates in the N words? It was right before the parody. No, I did not, but I am not surprised. I heard that existed. I just haven't seen it. I hate the N word. My father used to say the N word. I never understood it. I never understood my father in that, because he would throw out the copious N word and would talk trash about African Americans, but he was a product of his time, just like a lot of people were. Um, in the 60s, I never could understand it because he would say that stuff and talk that trash and then turn around at the bank he worked at and make um, loans to African Americans. It was right after he was talking about doing violent things to Molly's family. I don't know how he has a channel. I don't know how he doesn't get, because I heard that he had said some really horrible things to Molly's family about Molly's families and threats. Word, there is no excuse for allowing that on your live stream. You know, if it had been me, I would have muted them immediately and had a conversation behind the scenes and then told my viewers, no, I don't approve of that kind of behavior. Now, a lot of people want to act bad in parody, and God knows I've done it too myself, but try not to. So they were doing that, and they were going all in on Michelle. And there are a lot of things to dislike about Michelle. I'm just going to throw that out because she is clearly doing all kinds of crazy stuff like drug seeking behavior, attention seeking behavior, asking people to give her money. And Ski is always asking for that too. NJ Court says the racist rank clip. I saw something he posted today about the charges against Ski Mask and some of the things that have happened in the past. And I just don't know. I just know. Ah, chilly. 2 more days. Good. I had to change my name. I got to talk about that a little bit too. I had to change my name on here and a lot of my things because I had one of those crazy incidents couple earlier in the week where I had people approaching me going, you need to write a blog or do videos or something because you stopped in LQ, no longer quivering 2 years ago. Said, have you not been paying attention? I've got X, Y, and Z going on, including my YouTube channel. Where you been? Oh, Shelley, I love Galveston. Galveston Beach is a really nice place to go. The only problem with Galveston is there was a horrific hurricane that swept through that area in the early 1900s. Some of the things I've experienced there, it kind of creeps me out sometimes, but I would still go there if I lived in the States and had access to that. Not sure who that channel is. YouTube recommended the clip. I heard he erased the live, which maybe why others are missing it. That could be, could be. So I don't know how you can say you hate the N-word. So I don't know how you can say you hate the N-word and allow that to go on. A lot of times Ski, when he does his videos, he seems to me like he is trying everything in his power to be liked. And I understand that. He's still in that time. He's still in that frame. He's not like me where I'm just kind of like, this is me, warts and all. You can either accept it or not. So he said those things and turned around and platformed that. The hurricane, yeah, it is one of the top 10 worst. Cheryl, and I read a couple books on that hurricane, and it was really the start of National Weather Service. National Weather Service dropped the ball on that one, even though the Cuban Weather Service tried to warn the U.S. Weather Service that this was headed that way. But Isaac Klein, the meteorologist and the National Weather Service employee in Galveston, just dropped the ball. He lost a lot of his family members in that as well as a lot of other people. It was really just very tragic. I think the most tragic story to come out of Galveston was about the children at the orphanage at the end of the beach. The nuns tied them all together with ropes and tied them to them, and very few of those children lived. Most of them drowned. It's awful. So I'm going to recommend we just not watch Ski much. He seemed cool, and then something changed. I watched a live where he said Molly insinuated he was a Jew. His words, and he was livid. I unsubbed in. So we've got not just racism against Black people, we have got anti-Semitism. Jesus wept. And I see these people do that, I think, how are they allowed to keep doing this crap on YouTube? And it struck me last night, too, when they were all making fun of how Michelle looked. That kind of blew my mind, too, because they were going in hard. And social media, really, social media, we should really not be hitting each other for looks. Looks is really the silliest of all measuring sticks. Why do I say that? Because I've known people who don't fit the standard, whatever beauty is considered in each time frame, who've been some of the most beautiful on the inside. You can't help what you look like a lot of times. Sometimes there's no use for it, but you shouldn't be going after people for that. Go after her for the drug-seeking behaviors from hospital to hospital. Go after her for drinking on a live stream. That's heinous. Go after her for the e-begging, because she's certainly done a lot of that. But don't go after her for being mentally ill. Don't go after her for her looks. Don't go after the fact that she's had Botox. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because I've certainly said a million trillion things about without a crystal ball in her chin. So I'm drawing a line in the sand now. Not only is racism unacceptable, but talking about people's their faces or their bodies is wrong. We're in 2023 now. We should have moved past all this middle school nonsense. So ski is disgusting. It took me a long time to even comment after the last time he apologized. Thought he had maybe meant it. This new crap I saw was insane. Yeah, I can understand that, Yama. It's just blowing my mind that he keeps going there with this stuff. Melly, I think it's easy to do. And I think as women, we've been taught by our culture that it is okay to critique the physical anything of anyone else. We've been taught that by our society, that women's looks are paramount above everything else. Not even close. And that's what's so funny about some of these Christian bloviators. I'm just going to call them that. They tend to focus on appearance, and appearance is, like I said, stupid. It doesn't determine anything about the person. Oh, you've missed me. Oh, I'm so sorry, Yama. You lost your channel, your other channel. Crochet Lover, Angel Grace, what happened was he did a stream last night where he allowed two people to make fun of African Americans. And then they all started jumping in on Michelle's appearance. Michelle, MGL, Michelle Goes Live. They all started just bashing her for what she looked like after they'd exhibited horrible racism. And then, Yama's telling me about his reaction to Molly saying it was a Jew. I don't know. On, and the whole chat was completely fine if he blocked you. I am not surprised. You could be, they can figure out who you are by who you hang out with and your words and what you choose to make fun of people about. And like I said, with Michelle, there's a whole lot there to dislike, but appearance is not it. It's just not what you do. So as of today, I'm going to stop it even with KJ. I hope he loses his channel. I think he might. If people report him, he might. I may have to go in and report him, because it is pretty awful for him to go there with the racism and then the looksism and all of that appearance. Now, I thought we'd come so far in this country against racism and against judging people by what they look like. But no. Angela, no, she did not come on his channel. He had a board, and he impaneled a bunch of people that I don't know. and they were all making fun of her for having Botox and having a real puffy face. I just want to point out, if you're a heavy drinker, having a real puffy face is just one of the side effects. Just like being a heavy smoker, one of the side effects is not having proper circulation in your hands and feet eventually. Those are realities of what happens. Heavy drinking does a number on your body. I mean, an absolute number. It can spike your blood sugar. It kills brain cells. There's so many negatives. And I'm not saying you can't have a refreshing adult beverage or two when the mood strikes you, because that's perfectly fine. It's just once you become that addicted to it. Cheryl, I know, and I know I'm probably going to get some nasty comments for saying that there's a lot of racism on YouTube and in the world. I dealt with that as a kid, like I was saying earlier. My father said the N word. My grandfather did. In fact, I remember the funniest incidents of my grandfather saying, it was the only time I ever laughed at him saying it, is I was staying with him while my father took my kids and someone else to Disney World. And I was taking care of my grandfather. I was there with my husband. And I was watching Homicide: Life on the Streets, which was my favorite show at the time. This was like the mid to late 90s. Sitting there watching Homicide: Life on the Streets, and it was the episode where Frank Pimpleton has a massive stroke in the interrogation room. And they haul him to Maryland Shock Trauma to see what they could do to help him. The very end of the episode, it shows what's going on in Frank's mind when this is going on, and he's in a coffin naked, pounding on it, screaming. And my grandfather was watching the show with me, but he fell asleep, and he woke up just as Frank was doing that and said, "What is that damn fool N-word doing there now?" And I swear I just busted out laughing. There's racism everywhere. It's the human weakness to want to seem better. Cheryl, that's true, but I don't get it. My father put down blacks, even though he dealt with a lot of them in his business. And I never got it because we employed a maid for many years. It was African American. My father had a gardener for a while who was black. So I didn't get it, how it was fine to have them come in and do stuff and take care of everything. It was fine to do business with them, but in the long run, you were going to say all these awful things and say they weren't human. When I saw the movie The Help, that was like, it wasn't an eye-opening thing. It was a confirming thing for me because the movie showed what my life was like in some ways back in the South in those days, because I was a small child at that time when that movie, the time it represented. I can tell you those attitudes are absolutely what was going on there. I wasn't in Jackson, Mississippi, but I wasn't too far from it in Louisiana. And it was very common. And I never got it. I never understood. And when my father died, oh my word, the black people that showed up at the funeral, they were just absolutely precious. They told me tales about my father helping them out and how great he was. I was just sitting there, jaw dropped, because I'd heard him for years use the N-word and say all this stuff. Cheryl, it was for me too. It was like looking at my inner child, not my child, but my inner child, because I'd experienced something very similar as a child. So for Ski and Pals to be saying and acting like this is just bizarre in this time and age. So I'm calling for a boycott of Everybody Knows Racist on Twitter, YouTube, whatever, because that's what I'm going to be doing. I can see what you can't see, but I don't want to watch Ski anymore because what he does is reprehensible. And it's sad because he, like KJ and many others, could do good with the things that they cover. It's like Michelle. If she just stuck to cooking, we wouldn't even have having a conversation about her at all. Hey, Moonchild Pink. It would be Oh yeah, well, I don't care for recipes I'm not watching, but or I love or cooking, but it wouldn't be this nonsense. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and also go because what happened to me yesterday, I was getting in my car. I showed you how 3 left feet and 2 are on backwards kind of person I am. Since I had my stroke, and that's another fight with Michelle. She keeps claiming she had these massive strokes. Um, let me tell you what that's like because I didn't have a massive one, but I had a pretty good thalamic stroke exactly 2 years ago. And one of the things that happened was I lost all sense of balance. So my left side, I have almost no feeling. I have crappy balance. So I was trying to get in my car yesterday, and my right hand, where I hold my cane, threw it up and grabbed the door. Went to put my left leg in the car, and the second I shifted my balance, and on my way to my right leg, my knee locked and then it buckled. It does that every now and then, but I've never had it do it at that moment. So here I am going backwards, trying to regain balance, no longer getting in the car. And I fell back. I fell back and slammed to the ground pretty hard, including my stupid flat head in the back. So I'm not quite myself right now. And I'm in a fair amount of pain. I just took a small prescription painkiller for it because I don't feel quite right. And so that's why I'm cutting this short now rather than my asthma's actually better. Apparently, my body can only handle one health crisis at a time. So it seems to be better. Oh, it's crazy, Belly Lid. Here's where it is. Um, here's where it is with I've been thinking about this a lot. I hit pretty hard. No broken bones, no nothing. Just bruises and maybe a slightly shaken up brain. My husband over there had a really small fall 3 years ago. He broke his shoulder in 3 places. They had to go in there and put screws and stuff. I'm in a lot of pain due to weight. I was out walking over 30 minutes, then went to the Apple store. And after the eyeglass store, my frame broke. Oh, Shelly, that's no fun. I quit smoking tomorrow. Will be a month and I can breathe already again. Yama, that is awesome. I'm all for people quitting those things that harm them. You know, I've quit sweets. I mostly eat like apples and things like that if I have a sweet tooth instead of reaching for a cookie. I'm reaching for something a little bit healthier. I started doing that a couple of years ago, and my blood sugar has gone down to the point where there are days I don't eat metformin at all. So whatever little changes we can make to make healthy, great. I think I'm going to have to lose some weight. I mean, I don't see any other way around it. Smaller people don't hurt themselves quite as bad when they slam into the ground. I'm diabetic, and Michelle's toast scared the F out of you. Yama, I am borderline. Well, I am diagnosed with diabetes, but I take metformin, and I haven't progressed. You know, sometimes people end up diabetic and they start taking metformin, and 3 years later they get put on something else, and after that they end up on insulin. I've managed to avoid that. It's been 10 years with the metformin and trying to watch what I eat. And you got to be so careful about that if you're diabetic. And it's kind of funny because I want to stay on the metformin at the high dose because it helps my asthma. It actually does. And it's like what you would call the kind of drug that they say it helps you stay younger. I'm all for that. So there are days when I take the metformin and my body is saying, eat, 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 throw in food. Metformin was killing me. Trulicity. Oh, wow. That is that's a major change. My A1Cs are pretty low. It's gotten to the point where I don't even check as often as I used to because I can tell by how I feel where my blood sugar is. Now, sometimes when I get that eat, 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 I have to check it to make sure I haven't tanked too low. And in those days I've tanked too low, it's like oatmeal cookie coming on right now. I got to go attend a meeting. I hope you all have a great day. Rita, hugs to you too. I hope you have a great meeting. I have arthritis all over, and I swear growing up skinny and even a little underweight until I was 30. I went from 125 to now 350. My body was not used to the weight gain. Chili for me, it was the asthma drugs. All of the asthma drugs, all of the massive amounts of steroids I used to have to take. And I've gone up and down so many times. It's like a yo-yo. And I know what I need to do. I need to eat healthy all the time. All the steroids, yeah, I hate them. Hate them. I don't take them now. I can't. I'm steroid intolerant. I have bad things happen when I take steroids now, instead of taking them and having them be helpful like they used to be in the past. So that's how weird my asthma has progressed. It's just strange. Like I said, at one point, they ran out of drugs to give me and started giving me chemotherapy. Prednisone had my diabetes going nuts too. It will. I think that's why I started popping a high blood sugar at one point, and that's why they started giving me metformin. And there aren't any diabetics on my mother's side, but my father and his mother were diabetics. So I guess I inherited that from them. And so metformin is good if you're trying to look younger, apparently. So I'm trying to stay on it. So it's like sometimes I have to throw in food. And Yama, when you were saying you were afraid for Michelle because you thought maybe she was diabetic, I'm afraid for her for that same reason too. What happens if you throw in a lot of alcohol? It's almost entirely sugar going into your body, and eventually your islets of Langerhans, wherever the insulin naturally comes in, it wears out. Apparently, you only get so much insulin in your body the rest of your life. So there's that. And the toe is scaring me for two reasons: because of the non-circulation that people who smoke heavily get, and the fact that I think she's probably diabetic. If she's diabetic, that thing is never going to heal. They're going to have to cut it off. I'm also hyperflexible and developmental coordination disability. Think of a floppy baby and very clumsy. Shilly, me too. And I didn't even realize until recently, until I was reading, if you walk on your tippy toes as a child, they're saying that that is an autism thing. I did that for years, even into adulthood. I don't do it now because I can't. It would hurt too bad. And I tried to talk to her privately, and she was not having it. I told her she's got to start seeing a primary because she only goes to urgent care and ERs. Yes, yes, yes. That's the problem. She's got to start getting some of this stuff under control, because if she doesn't, she's going to die. And as much as Michelle is annoying sometimes, and you can see the bad behavior, I don't hold any ill will towards her. I would like to see her get proper medical treatment and move on with her life. That's what she needs. She needs healing. She needs people that are going to accept her, and mental health. I mean, and to put down all substances. If there was ever a walking, talking ad for why it's a bad idea to drug and drink, she's it. It was 3 weeks. We had an okay dialogue. Then the toe. Yama, you were nicer to her than I am. I'm not even sure I would want to talk to her. She's from the same part of the world I am. And I see the drinking, and I see, because I have people in my family that drink like that, and none of them have good outcomes. That kills people. It just wrecks their liver and all kinds of things. So it's kind of funny. I don't drink anymore because of the blood pressure meds I take at night. But before that, I wasn't a heavy drinker either. I would have one every now and then. Yep, she's a party animal. Yep. Well, it's hard not to be in New Orleans because everybody drinks there. Everybody. More bars per square mile than anywhere in the world, I think. So there is that. Okay, I'm really going to go this time. I know I said 10 minutes ago I was, and I wasn't going to do a long live stream. But there it is. Let's just not accept any racist behavior from everyone and say, excuse me, did you just say something racist? Because that's really, I mean, We're supposed to be in the modern world now. That stuff should have died a long, long, long time ago. I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you maybe in a day or so. Bye.